Extra. We're tracking Hurricane Milton live as it prepares to make landfall near the Florida Peninsula in just a few short moments. We're on your side with the latest updates and the impacts already seen across Florida.
And we talk about what we can expect this upcoming fall season and when we could actually see our first frost. Plus, we're taking you beyond the atmosphere to celestial events happening up in space and what we could possibly see right in our own backyard coming up tomorrow.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
Well, with Milton just a short time away from landfall, take a look at the Florida flight cam from St. Petersburg, Florida. As the rain and wind start to ramp up there in those areas, we're starting to see those whiteout conditions in parts of Florida as hurricane force sustained winds start to impact areas, especially there along the west coast. And meteorologist Lauren Linehan and Tania Michelle joining us again right now. This thing really ramped up in motion, in speed as it's approaching the coast.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming in a few hours earlier than what we had forecast this morning and the National Hurricane Center has. So that's just a testament to, hey, it's coming in and it's coming in quick.
And you have to be ready for whatever, you know, weather's constantly changing. You have to be ready to pivot and take action rapidly.
Well, this system has had a big impact throughout the day, and it's with all the tornadoes that we've been tracking across Florida. We've seen not just tornado warnings, radar detected, there have been confirmed tornadoes damage. This has been a big time outbreak. I really can't tell you last time, even with the other hurricanes that have moved through, we've seen so many tornado warnings with a tropical system over the state of Florida. We need to go back and look at some of that data, but right now that system is approaching, and the eye approaching the coast there near Sarasota. It looks like look right there at the very small eye in the center of this. Notice right there, you see that starting to show up some of that reflectivity, but this is the center of the hurricane, and it looks like it's going to be right on track there, moving in around Sarasota, Tampa to the north, and then to the south. These areas around Port Charlotte right now experiencing some wind gusts over 75 miles per hour, and it's really right now the big concern is that storm surge. It's just rushing in quickly in these areas, even to the south around Port Charlotte. You're going to see those intense storm surge levels as this system moves in. But it's picked up some speed, and typically with these systems here, especially you see this often in late October, more into November with these hurricanes like this. When they get picked up in a westerly flow, they race off to the northeast, and that's what's happening here. And the good news is it really won't have much time to set out over the Gulf and re-strengthen into a Cat 5 level type system, but it is a major Category 3, winds around 120 maximum sustained, and it's going to stay a hurricane as it moves across the state of Florida. Now, looking at wind gusts showing 87 mile per hour wind, you can see on the map, so those wind speeds ramping up, and you can see it covers a lot of real estate here. So as we told you yesterday here on Weather Extra, that wind field really expanding as this is approaching Florida, and it's going to exit tomorrow off the east coast of Florida. But around here locally, we've had the dry conditions. I want to tell you a little bit about, of course, what's next for us. And first off, there's some football happening tonight. This is a live look from the Houston Cole Library here at Jacksonville State University. First Alert Sky Vision. You can see the stadium lights on. A perfect night for football there. It's going to be a nice evening if you have plans. We're going to have more cool mornings, warm afternoons, and next week for us, a big-time fall cold front. We're talking possibly some upper 30s across parts of the area. We'll show you when. I'll have the 10-day forecast coming up.
And we look forward to that, Wes. Well, let's talk more about Milton. A tornado outbreak happening across Florida before Hurricane Milton even made landfall. Check this out. A large tornado spotted near the turnpike in Okeechobee, Florida. This comes after numerous tornado warnings and watches were in place across the state earlier this afternoon. And this is video out of Clewiston, Florida, after a tornado was spotted on the ground crossing over State Route 80. Clewiston is about 60 miles east of Fort Myers, Florida. And in Fort Myers, damage was reported across the area after that possible tornado moved through. In the video, you can see downed trees, power poles, and damaged homes already. A 7-Eleven gas station was also damaged, and get this, parts of its canopy were thrown in the street. The video was shot at Colonial Boulevard and Orangewood Avenue, about a mile from the Midpoint Bridge. And this leads into how tornadoes can also be created from hurricanes. And I want to send it over now to meteorologist Lauren Linehan to tell us more about this and give us more of that weather extra.
Well, Tania, you know, we think about hurricanes and tornadoes both being weather threats, but it's not like a tornado can produce a hurricane. They're on a much smaller scale, but hurricanes can and do have a history of producing tornadoes, just like we've seen today with Milton. So let's look at those quadrants of a hurricane. If we break it up into 4 quadrants, that can give us an idea of where we're going to see those threats within a storm. So if you think about the forward movement of a storm, which for Milton has been to the northeast, and the right quadrant of that storm, the right front quadrant, that's where you can often see a greater tornado threat. And then even in the right rear quadrant, though tornadoes aren't quite as likely, you're still going to see a more significant wind, flooding, and surge threat versus on the west side, that drier side of the storm typically, whereas the east side, that's the one you don't want to be on. But you can still see even on the quote unquote drier side of Milton, it's actually very wet. And that's because you've got counterclockwise circulation around this system. And so you've got moisture that's pulling off of the Atlantic and feeding this on that, what is the north side here. So when you have low pressure in the northern hemisphere, air moves counterclockwise around it. So if you look at the right front quadrant, that's where we saw tornadoes developing today, because you've got that forward motion of the storm, but then you also have winds that are coming off of the water. So when those two interact, you get wind shear in the atmosphere, and that's the difference in wind speed or direction as you go up in height. And when you get that, sometimes you can have cyclones to form like tornadoes. Well, check out this stunning video captured by Sail Drone, courtesy of NOAA. Wave heights within Milton reached 28 feet with gusts as high as 70 miles per hour when this was taken. And this was about 40 nautical miles from Milton's eye. This was earlier today. And this research represents a collaborative endeavor to better understand the role of the ocean in hurricanes. Well, in Pasco County, which is about 35 miles from Tampa, emergency officials are still bracing for storm surge to move in. On top of that, piles of debris are still remaining around parts of the county from Hurricane Helene. Fox's Kylie Jones shows us what a lot of these residents are dealing with ahead of Milton's arrival.
Right where I'm standing was where a mound of debris was sitting less than 24 hours ago. The homeowner says county crews came and picked it up on Tuesday. County debris haulers and private contractors made it their mission to get as much debris in Pasco County out of the way as quickly as possible before Hurricane Milton. Of course, their priority was here along the coastline in places like Port Richey and the Hudson area. These homes in this neighborhood saw 4 feet of storm surge inside their homes. So ahead of Hurricane Milton, it's unfortunately not going to take much more to do even more devastating damage.
The storms are just knocking us out. And everybody wants to sell now because, nobody wants to do this no more. I'm getting too old for this. But yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a total nightmare.
As you can see inside, his home is gutted and there's not much left at this point to protect. He says his best bet at this point is to lock up, evacuate, and hope for the best. But he and so many other homeowners in this area along the coast in Pasco County are really wondering what the future looks like and questioning whether they'll have to move from the home that they once thought they'd be in forever. Reporting in Pasco County, Kylie Jones.
Well, temporary closures of a breakfast chain's location show where Hurricane Milton may hit the hardest. Some Waffle House locations in the Tampa Bay and Florida Myers area in Florida are closing according to the company Waffle House's index map. The company is known for always being open, can confirm, and for its natural disaster preparedness. It's an unofficial indicator to locals of the severity of an impending storm based on if their nearest Waffle House is closed or not. The map, which is posted to this chain's social media, shows fully open locations in green and closed restaurants in red.
And in 30 seconds, we take a quick look at your forecast for the end of the week, plus take you to the skies to see some amazing celestial events. You're watching First Alert Weather Extra, and we'll be right back.
Well, right now, the center of Hurricane Milton, about 20 miles to the southwest of Sarasota. A 77-mile-per-hour wind gust was just reported at the Sarasota-Bradenton International Airport. So that is some ground truth data coming in. So we are seeing hurricane-force wind gusts now starting to impact the west coast. But the center is still offshore. This is the northern eye wall that's impacting Tampa, St. Pete area at this time as we continue to track Hurricane Milton making landfall and starting to impact Florida, which we've had impacts all day. We've had the tornado warnings, and that's been a big story all across South Florida throughout the day. But as we look ahead, we'll be talking about some colder weather on the way, but also what we can typically expect with respect to the fall season and when to expect that first frost. Right now, meteorologist Matt Daniel joins us to talk more about when to expect the first frost.
Hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather this week. Temperatures cool in the morning, comfortable and warm with lots of sunshine in the afternoon. And guess what? We've been teasing that maybe next week we're looking at an even bigger cool down on the way. So let's talk about what we typically expect in October. For our average high temperatures, we're typically in the mid 70s in October. By November, our average high in the mid 60s. So we are definitely in that time frame where temperatures start to really cool down. On October 1st, our average high is 81. Going into tomorrow, our average high is about 78, and by the time we get to Halloween, our average high 70 degrees. So looking ahead at next week, we may just see some 60s. We'll see what happens, but here's a look at those low temperatures, and I notice you've already been noticing those 50s in the mornings. Well, that's pretty typical. 54 is where we average. By November, our average low 43 degrees. So here's how those temperatures trend for the month of October. Normally we'll have those lows right around 57 degrees, but by October 31st for Halloween, kind of spooky upper 40s is where we typically are for the end of the month. So get ready for some fall, for some cooler temperatures. And when we think about fall, we're thinking about daylight saving time coming to an end. That's just about 25 days away on November 3rd. So that's when we fall back. And of course, that means those sunsets a little bit earlier. It's going to be in that 4 o'clock hour, so get ready for it. And of course, with those cooler temperatures, I have to start thinking about frost. So here's a look at those average first frost dates, and it's usually late October into early November, a little bit earlier up towards northwest Alabama and into the early parts of November when we start seeing frost. And that's when temperatures can dip down into the mid to upper 30s, and then those freezing temperatures a little bit later after that. But enjoy the fall weather and be thankful that we've got some quiet conditions over the next several days.
And taking you beyond the atmosphere, check this out. Another G4 magnitude solar storm was recognized by the Space Weather Prediction Center last night, meaning that the northern lights could be possible across the U.S. But will Alabama get in on it? Yes, even as far south as us tomorrow night and Friday. Solar storms of this magnitude can also impact power grids and other forms of communication. Oh, y'all clean up your iPhone cameras then so we can all get some good views. And the best part is, and horizontal photos, please, we're begging. Well, the northern lights aren't the only celestial sights to see. You may have heard about the potential for an additional shiny orb to pop up in the sky. We check in with our friends at Stanford University's planetarium to find out more. What is this about a second moon?
The mini moon.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So every once in a while, Earth will catch an asteroid coming into its gravitational force. And so this particular one, it is, I think it's called 2024 P75, something like that. They've all got really easy to remember names. And they come towards Earth. And this one in particular won't complete a full orbit. It completes what's called a slingshot orbit. So it'll come around one side, circle around, and then leave right back where it came to its respective place in the asteroid belt. But yeah, so it's just another one of those things that happens a few times a year in a decade, and sometimes they can last for a few months, maybe even a year, very rarely, but this one in particular will be here for about a month and a half.
So would we be able to see it in the night skies? It's something like you can see Venus or Saturn or Jupiter?
It's a little too small for that. So it's
Okay.
about the size of a school bus, and it's pretty far away too. So you could see it with like a really, really, really good telescope, but definitely not with the naked eye.
We should call it a micro moon, not a mini moon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, size of a school bus, that does give some perspective. So, you know, we've got a lot of cool things going on in outer space, but one way we can really integrate that interest is through the planetarium. Can you all tell me more about the planetarium, and you, Ariana, being the lead intern, what are some of the exciting programs you all have going on?
Yeah, so it's a fun time at the planetarium. I've been involved for about 2 years now, and we have all sorts of shows going on. We just wrapped up our show on exoplanets and the search for extraterrestrial life. In a few weeks, we'll be doing a show over autumn skies and what constellations and deep space objects you can see. And then we're going to end it off with our annual Star of Bethlehem show, which is where we talk about some various theories of what the Star of Bethlehem could be. And of course, we talk about the scripture as well to help provide more context into what they were seeing at the time.
Very informative. Well, still ahead on Weather Extra. We're not done. We're going to take you to the classroom, but also continue to track Hurricane Milton as it makes landfall across the west coast of Florida. Weather in the classroom, more on that right here on Weather Extra after the break.
Third graders. Yeah, they're sweet. Okay. That's after Tania does Beyond the 7 Day. I mean, you come on over. We can talk about Beyond the 7 Day.
Really? You can go do that.
Yeah.
Welcome back into Weather Extra. Here's a live look from the Alabama Gulf Coast at this time, and certainly a tropical sunset out there, very breezy. You can see those waves rolling in, high rip current risk in those areas. The view from Panama City and the winds there up to around 29 miles per hour. We're seeing those breezing conditions as the center of that tropical system. You know, what you're looking at with a hurricane, just like with any other cyclone, it's an area of low pressure. So as that pressure drops off rapidly, that drives up the wind speed. It's all related here. So that's why we're seeing these gusty winds all across Florida, topping tropical storm force. Look there, 91-mile-per-hour winds rolling in now along the coast near Sarasota. So we're about to see, likely seeing some winds in there gusting over 100 miles per hour as this moves in. I want to take you the view out, and this data, this was captured about an hour ago, so it's older data, but what will happen once this updates, this will update some of the values there along the coast. But I just want to point that out. But what this shows us, look at some of these wave heights out here over the Gulf of Mexico as that thing was approaching Florida, or as it now moves onshore. And then if we go in closer to the Florida Peninsula, all these little red areas here you see, these are tornado reports today. Look at all these tornado reports. We had so many confirmed warnings. There's Lake Okeechobee north of there. There's the Florida Turnpike. A lot of this on I-95. There was a report earlier. One of our weather watchers was talking to a friend there and actually reported power lines down on I-95 on both lanes. So some of those lanes blocked. I know a lot of folks are still, even along the East Coast, maybe seeking shelter and evacuating because of some of those gusty winds that will roll in. This will still be a hurricane as it moves right on across Florida and exits off the East Coast and moves out over the Atlantic, but this moves away from us. So again, we stay very dry across our area. The sky staying clear. It's going to be some nice weather here for the next several days. It looks like that nice weather is going to hang on through the weekend. But one thing, by Sunday, it will be a little bit warmer during the afternoon, but we have a cold front next week, and that's really going to drop those temperatures. Look at these 40s and even some 30s showing up on the map there around the middle of next week. So again, colder mornings, warm afternoons, dry forecast over the next 10 days. Well, be sure to visit WBRC.com and color the weather. Check out this picture submitted by Kaylin, and a lovely fall photo.
Wow.
And yeah, I think we've got a little pumpkin going on there. What do you think, Tania?
I mean, did she draw that? Because that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, you've got the, well, you know, we've got the fall pictures in every season. In fact, you can find those at Color the Weather, so share those with us. But nothing like a fall photo with all this cool weather going on, right? But visit WBRC.com. We'll feature your photo right here, Color the Weather. You can submit that either on the website or the WBRC First Alert Weather app. All right, let's head to Tania right now talking about beyond the 7-day. Hey, we've got some fall weather coming. And I mean cold weather next week.
Yes, Wes. And listen, hey, people have been tired of the hot weather, so this is for you. As we look beyond the 7-day, October 15th through the 19th, you can see our precipitation outlook across the majority of our nation, really dealing with below average rainfall, so not a whole lot of wet weather expected, and that includes us right here at home. We could be seeing 50% chance below normal, where we usually are at this time of the year as far as our rainfall totals. And moving along very quickly as far as our temperature outlook, October 15th through October 19th. Looking across the nation, above average temperatures for the West Coast. That does not include us here at home. Below average temps, and that means those 40s next week are probably coming sooner than you expected. We'll continue to give you updates beyond the 7-day every single day, Monday through Friday, right here on First Alert Weather Extra. But until then, keep in mind things can and possibly will change. Lauren?
Hey, Tania, we love to see those spooky season temperatures in play. And hey, today I talked to some kids who weren't too happy about that cold front next week. We took weather to the classroom here in Birmingham today. Meteorologist Shinty Rodriguez, meteorologist Matt Daniel, and myself, we went to Glen Iris Elementary School to check in with some students there to tell them all about weather. And hey, if you were there today, these third graders got a special treat. We told them about the weather, not just in English, but Spanish too. And yep, you guessed it, Matt and I only spoke English, but that's why we are so thankful to have Shinty on our weather team, our bilingual meteorologist who hails from Puerto Rico. So we got to talk to kids in English and Spanish. We had a great time. They were an awesome crew, and some of them even got to practice the weather. I think we have some future meteorologists in the group. First Alert Weather Extra. We'll be right back after the break.
And welcome back into Weather Extra. So latest advisory as of 6 o'clock, still showing this thing Cat 3, 120 mile per hour winds, and it's probably going to stay that way until landfall.
Yeah, unfortunately that's the case, but I don't see it weakening anytime soon.
Yeah, so I've got behind you here the advisory pulled up. You can see it moves offshore tomorrow. Here's a live look at radar. Remember, if you have our First Alert weather app, you can pull this up. You can track this along with us. Of course, we'll be monitoring Milton and some cooler weather, right, in the forecast coming up.
Cooler than it is now, so maybe actual sweater weather. We'll see.
We'll have that for you tonight. We'll see you back here at 9, and we'll have the 10-day at 10.
And here is a live look at Hurricane Milton beginning to make landfall in the Florida Peninsula. We'll have updates on First at 9.